Discussions regarding the US-Iran standoff usually involve only the primary combatants. That expectation changed when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi issued a direct public reprimand to both Washington and Tehran. This diplomatic shift followed a drone strike on a UAE oil terminal, an attack that left 3 Indian nationals severely injured. As those casualties are processed, the military situation is deteriorating in the nearby airspace over Qatar. A U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotanker vanished from radar completely after broadcasting an emergency signal. American investigators suspect the plane was targeted with radar jamming or hijacked by Iranian forces. Tehran has maintained that they had no role in the aircraft's disappearance. Between injured foreign workers and missing military hardware, the conflict has broken out of its localized boundaries. It is now actively threatening international assets and non-combatant citizens across the Middle East. To understand why this is a global issue, look at the Strait of Hormuz. It serves as the central artery for the world's energy trade, carrying a massive portion of the global oil supply through one narrow passage. The risk of active war has turned this waterway into a high-danger zone. Commercial airlines like Indigo are now advising passengers to check flight statuses as regional airspace becomes increasingly unpredictable. Beyond the oil tankers, millions of foreign diaspora workers live and work in the Gulf. They rely on these exact flight paths and shipping lanes, and they are now finding themselves caught in the path of a potential escalation. Threatening the Hormuz Passage creates a shockwave that travels thousands of miles, hitting civilian and commercial sectors far beyond the Middle East. The two sides are operating on incompatible strategies. While the U.S. pushed Project Freedom to secure the strait, Iran's leadership dismissed the initiative as Project Deadlock. Diplomatic options evaporated when the White House flatly rejected a 14-point peace proposal from Tehran. President Trump argued that Iran's previous actions meant they had not yet paid the full price for their conduct. Iranian officials responded by threatening to turn the region's shipping routes into a graveyard for American forces if the U.S. military continues its current course. Trump met that rhetoric with a vow to wipe Iran off the map if they target American ships, while insisting the U.S. will use any means necessary to block their nuclear program. With the rejection of the peace proposal and the rise of existential threats, both nations have dismantled their diplomatic off-ramps in favor of high-stakes brinkmanship. This political friction creates immediate, measurable destruction in neighboring countries. Pakistan is currently experiencing some of the most severe collateral damage from the standoff. This data shows the direct impact of the shipping disruptions. Pakistan's oil import bill has spiked by 167%. As energy prices climb, domestic inflation has followed, making basic goods harder for the population to afford. While these regional economies struggle, the U.S. administration is preoccupied with internal matters, from debates over presidential term limits to security lockdowns at the White House. This illustrates a recurring pattern in modern conflict. A superpower can remain focused on its own internal political cycles, while its regional posturing triggers a total economic crisis for neutral neighbors. The global landscape is currently defined by a strange contradiction. While the Middle East moves toward war, other long-standing conflicts are actually cooling down. For the first time in decades, Russia and Ukraine have declared a ceasefire to observe Victory Day, pausing major military operations. With those theaters briefly quiet, the U.S.-Iran friction has become the most significant force driving global instability. This volatility is creating a power vacuum. As Washington focuses on Tehran, emerging powers like China are moving to increase their influence within international bodies like the UN. The scale of modern supply chains and the mobility of the global workforce make it impossible to keep this conflict contained to one region. When superpower brinkmanship endangers essential trade and millions of overseas workers, emerging nations like India are forced to intervene. Protecting their own citizens and economies now requires them to actively mitigate the blast radius of a war they didn't start.